Professor Sathya Prakash Varanashi is an architect, urban designer based in Bangalore, involved in designing eco-friendly buildings through Sathya Consultants, teaching urban design at RV College, writing on cost-effective and sustainable ideas for the Hindu, contributing to heritage matters through INTACH, organizing design events through Udbhava Forum, and generally networking with like-minded people.
Thank you. As I walked into IIHS, met with Pradeep, and I found you was rather very young, and didn't expect someone who was looking so young to be a librarian here. And then I walk in further, and I meet with Maya Jayapal here, whom I didn't expect to be
the other end of the
no, not exactly the other end, don't take it that way now.
No.
I wanted to say someone who's so experienced, and very often the experience shows the way we are, and I would rather say that I'm meeting you for the first time, though I've heard of you, I've read your book, I read your earlier book long time ago, so, and quite often I used to mention about your earlier book with people, saying that one of the books on history of Bangalore. So, I think in a way I'm also saying welcome to all of you to this possibly one of the more comprehensive first read on Bangalore. Very carefully using this word first read, not in a negative sense. Please don't think the first read is a negative thing. First read is a very, very positive one, because the first read has to give an overview of a place. And I myself have a collection of quite many books on Bangalore. Some of them we'll just mention later on for some other academic reason. And I find that many of them are in some very specific segments where this covers Bangalore overall. So welcome to all of you for this book as well. Yeah, I was mentioning that I have been hearing about you for a long time now. But today I find it more about Maya, saying that she was born in Chennai, studied in Bangalore, stayed for a long time in Jakarta, Singapore, and incidentally she wrote books on Jakarta and Singapore. Looks like wherever you go, you write a book on the city.
Yeah, I suppose so. I hope to at least.
You hope to at least. And then comes back to Bangalore in early 90s, and then writes a book on Bangalore as well, which was more like the second book on Bangalore's history. After Fazlul Hassan's book, which was published in 1970, there were no major books covering the history of Bangalore as such. So the next book we find is 1997 book by Maya. And now she is very much around in Bangalore, and she writes, of course, as we all know. She is also a columnist. She writes regularly for the local media. She is also into counseling, traveling, and I think any other introduction of Maya will happen through the discussion, conversation itself. See, very often this kind of very formal introduction is not really something which comes through about the person. Conversing with the person is the best way of getting introduced about the person. So I assume the next 1 hour will, or whatever timeline we have, will let us know more about you. I've gone through this book now twice, and first time there were certain insights about the book, and then certain critical comments about the book, and both of them were there. And then second time I went through, and then I realized that some of my critical comments were actually unfounded. They were false. I could make out immediately that I was wrong in assuming certain aspects about the book. And then some of the insights became a little more deeper as I went through second time. But I'm very curious now. I just want to check this with the audience before we go any further. How many of you sitting here have read this book or browsed through this book? One, only one person, and of course you. Of course. The man is sitting in the front because he is in the front page here.
On the front page there, yeah.
So you cannot afford to be sitting out there because you deserve to be here. Mr. Murthy from Select Bookshop. Thank you, sir, for being here with us today.
Can I explain how Mr. Murthy came to be there?
Yeah. I just have one little point here.
Sure.
When Pradeep and Swastik called me, thanks Pradeep, thanks Swastik, when they called me over here, one of the reasons why I accepted to be here was from a point of curiosity. There will be two people sitting here, one who has written the book, one who has definitely read the book, hoping without reading I can't discuss it with you. And there will be people there who have neither written the book nor discussed the book, nor read the book. They have no idea about the book. And how would the whole public text, how would the whole discussion go? It's very curious to know about it. See, in cricket, everyone may not bat or bowl, but at least they're watching the game. Those are an audience. Here the audience has neither written nor read the book. But I think, that should be also to be taken a positive way, and any of the pointers which come during this discussion, anytime, please raise your hand or raise your voice. And so it's not going to be, I've already shared this thought with Maya, she has agreed. We said we'll not make it very book-centric and we both-centric. So it will be an audience-centric and Bangalore-centric talk as well. Please feel free. Yeah, you wanted to talk about...
Yeah, actually the book came about, this edition of the book came about mostly because of Mr. Murthy. He believed in it so much that he brought the publisher to my house, and that is how it happened. Do you remember that, Mr. Murthy? One afternoon you woke me up and you brought Mr. Niyogi here.
I'm indeed fascinated by the type of photographs and all that she, comprised and then brought them there in the book. Fascinating. And some of the details she had described about certain communities in Bangalore, Parsi community, etc. You have made a mention that they are freely mixing with the general community at large in Bangalore, in the IT city. But then I have a friend from Reliance, very close friend. He was pointing it out that this is a mistake. Parsis are very close-knit. They will never mix other communities and all that. I said, no, you are wrong. You are opinionated because of your longer stay or almost constant stay in Mumbai city. Because there it may be the same feature. But I don't think she has found such a situation in Bangalore. Yeah. So I don't agree with you. And so, right from the beginning, we have had some sort of a close-knit discussions on the book. But the most admirable factor is the kind of collection of photographs that are collected here. It's really remarkable.
Really. Anyway, Murthy, I assume that anyone who looks at the history of Bangalore, anything of Bangalore, would end up ending up at your bookshop and speaking with you. You not only run a bookshop, you are an authority on books as well, as most of us know. Maya, now, your earlier acclaimed books, Old Singapore and Old Jakarta, the Bangalore itself, the earlier one you wrote. I believe you are not a historian by training, so I just wanted to check. I just want to check with you what makes you write on them, and secondly, for the sake of audience who have not yet read the book, I assume the copies are available here if anyone is interested. So for those who have not yet read the book, what is in essence this book is about? It will be good to hear from you, then I will also share in my comments.
Yeah. Actually, the earlier books on Jakarta and Singapore, I wrote the Singapore one first. They were meant to be a little more than what the ordinary tourist wants. So it's not just the monuments, but going into a little bit of the history of the city, what makes the city tick. And for me, I'm very interested in social history, that is, people who come, who make up the city. And why do they come, what makes them come, where do they settle, things like that. So what happened is, Singapore, I was a member of a society called the Friends of the Museum, where we used to study a lot of topics and then make presentations. So on the 25th anniversary of Singapore's founding, I had given a talk. And OUP, there was somebody from OUP who was in the audience. And incidentally, I always wanted to write a book. I wrote my first book when I was 52, a little bit late, but nevertheless I did it. So when she came up to me and she said, would you like to make this into a book? I said yes. And having written that, I also wrote Old Singapore. So when I came here, I was telling Sathya, it was quite fortuitous because I came back in 93. I studied here in Mount Carmel in 55, 57, long way away. But I just fell in love with the city then. And I always wanted to come back. And my husband and I had a posting here in 1968. And we lived in that beautiful house, Rain Tree, on Sankey Road. Have you been there? Have any of you been there? Beautiful house. I never appreciated it at that time because I had little children and I was so busy. But now when I see it, I say, my goodness, how lucky I was to live there. And then I made my husband fall in love with the city. So in 93, when we decided to come back, there was no other place for me but Bangalore. So when I came here, actually, Naomi Meadows, she was the convener, was she, Sathya?
Yes, convener.
For INTACH. And she wanted someone to write a book on Bangalore. She said Fazlul Hasan's was the only book at that time. And she asked my friend who lives downstairs, who is also a writer, but she writes on mythology. She said, would you write a book? And she said, no, I can't write a book on cities, but I have someone living upstairs who will write. I didn't know anything about the history of Bangalore, but then, you know, sometimes it's good to start with a blank slate. Then so I took it as a challenge, and I must say I loved the process because whoever I met was very helpful, and that is part of what makes this city tick. In spite of the fact, you know, there are so many people who complain saying, well, it's not what it was, etc., etc. But I have found 99.9% people willing to help. Sometimes over willing to help, so much information, which is not really what I want. But, so that's how I wrote this book. And I thought, one is, it was a way of getting to know where I was going to spend the rest of my life. And second is, it was a way of saying thank you to the city. I'm passionate about this place. And if anybody criticizes it too much, they better beware.
Do you have that list of books I gave you?
Sorry?
The books on Bangalore which I have. I gave a copy to you. It's around. I'll just keep it. Yeah. Suppose if someone asks you, I'm sure you are not concerned about targeting the book to a specific reader, but someone asks you, when you wrote, were you looking at a certain readership for the book, or was it very broadly conceived?
Yeah, it was.
And if it was conceived in what way, like what are the essential aspects of this book in your opinion?
I think when Naomi asked me to write the book, she just wanted a basic history of the book. But then when I started researching, I found that it just grew and grew and grew. And it became that other small book, which I had written earlier.
Earlier, 1997 book.
Correct, okay. 1997 book. Pardon? EastWest published it. And at that particular time, I did not have that many, surprisingly, I did not have that many sources. But then when they asked me to extend this book and enlarge it, then I found, you know, much more places to do research on, more things were available, more pictures. As Mr. Murthy said, one of the differences between that and this is the number of pictures I was able to source, because I've become a little more savvy about things, a little less shy about asking people. And when you do that, it's amazing how things fall into place. For example, the Deccan Herald had an article with one photograph by a lady called Jane, the way he is, how he reacts, and probably that's why I went into counseling also, because I'm really interested in that. That's how I came to the communities part. And my dream, not my dream, my objective and my hope is that, you see, because of constraints of space, of words, of pages, etc., I've not been able to give, say, full vent to or complete descriptions, too much research. And I'm hoping that somebody or the other will take up these communities and write about them in a larger perspective or much more. I'm really hoping people will do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But somewhere it doesn't read either like a sociology text nor like a urban study text. So that particular section stays somewhere in between. But you didn't feel any, you were not uncomfortable writing it that way. You're very comfortable because, as you said, you were your reader.
Yeah. I'm not, as you said, I'm not an architect. I'm not an urban academic. History was a late blooming passion with me. I was a literature student.
Yeah, yeah.
But somewhere I've got interested in history insofar as it affects the living, person.
Incident, just one second. Maybe that also could be the strength of the book. See, most often, you can pass the mic. I'll just say one word and then to Murthy and others as well. See, one of the points that we often notice is that sometimes we all become a bit too many specialists. And with the specialization around, we tend to lose out on the view of the generalist in the process. And when someone like you walk in, you bring in some sociology into it, you bring in history into it, you bring in some of the city issues into it. Maybe then, that becomes the strength of the book. Yes, Murthy. Yes.
When we were talking the sociology or social, I was thinking of Edgar Thurston and Gopal Swami, the castes and tribes of India, 7 volumes, long back. I had given it to complete set to Professor S.K. Ramakrishnan. Everything is being affected by the communal clashes and all that. So I was wondering, when you talked about community, I was wondering whether somebody could, I was discussing with another friend, why can't we produce some sort of a monogram, some sort of a booklet on the communities in Bangalore? Maybe we will take your help.
Well, as you, Maya, when she wrote this, she had to be also politically correct. So she has not touched upon those controversial scenarios. For example, there is no mention in this of anything of this quote-unquote famous, the underground underworld of Bangalore. It has no mention of Kotwal Ramchandra or Oil Kumar or anyone. And I'm just trying to very jovially say this.
I know.
But then when you're writing a book, you're not really going to write about them. So I assume also about the communal issues. You are not really touched upon this. See, another interesting point, the book, as I told you, starts with all the history, the beginnings, Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, Mysore, cantonment, roundabout town and the growing city. These are the subheadings. And then the sections continue as buildings of heritage, symbols of all faiths, vivid hues of history, nature and life. And there's a substantial section which we just now mentioned about the city and its people. So communities, culture, faiths, festivals, banks today, tomorrow, etc. It goes on. Now, one thing I curiously noticed, the book is also titled as Bangalore Roots. There's a little small connection I want to tell you between the book, you and me. Okay. You have thanked or you remembered Naomi Meadows, I should say, is the word, remembered her now. Yeah. She was the convener for INTACH Bangalore chapter then. And currently, for the last few years, I am the convener. Correct, right. So I suddenly felt nice that INTACH name is here somewhere. Right. Some of our INTACH colleagues are here, Arvind, Pankaj are here. If you look at, where is Bangalore rooted from a historic point of view or even sociological point of view, communities who came to Bangalore from 1537 onwards in the first 100 years. Some of you may be knowing that Bangalore was one among the major urban achievements. Just in about 100 years, what the Yelahanka Nada Prabhus, what the Kempegowda 1, Kempegowda 2 achieved in Bangalore is mind-boggling. Establishing a completely new city in about 100 years in that 1 century span in those days. So today, of course, in 100 virtually destroyed this earth. We are so capable. And whereas in those days, 100 years to build a city would have been humongously challenging. Now, I didn't really see much mention of that, even though it talks about the beginning. For that matter, there are some other texts which talk it more about those days of Bangalore than your text. So this seems to be a little heavily more on the late Pacific. Did you have some kind of a structuring of the book such a way that you wanted to?
I didn't really. I think it just happened that maybe I did not have enough information about it. I think that was one of the things. And I did want to concentrate, frankly, it's not based on anything, but I did decide to concentrate.
Which one would go around picking up information data and then try to collate it in a very structured way. When you went around and when you picked up all many of these are the much earlier texts, most of this information in the earlier days. I also noticed that some of the recent books are missing, but we'll come to that later on, but there's some other background to that which you have already shared with me. Do you think Bangalore is quite a adequately studied, documented place from, no, we are all sitting in IIHS today, and I'm not saying IIHS should focus on Bangalore, it has an all India mandate, but yours, the 97 version was one of the first books on Bangalore of its kind, and this is a much better version, and you should look at the photographs, some excellent photographs in this. So, what is your general opinion about Bangalore? Is Bangalore something well documented, a lot of information of that kind? Now that you have written the book, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Or do you think, we still have to?
I think we still need to document more. Archival material is very little really. And I think it would be, how shall I put it? I think it would be a great idea if all of us kind of, documented, or institutes like this documented much more. For example, I'm not comparing, but Singapore is a small place. It's a new city. But they have, for example, a whole institute of oral archives. That is stories which the immigrants, Singapore is a city of immigrants. All of them they're not able to write, but they're able to speak. They've given their stories. And considering that it's such a small place, everything is, it's almost as if, we in India we're surrounded by history. We have too much history around us, so we take it for granted. This is my personal impression. Whereas Singapore is trying to build a history for themselves, and you find them going all out to document every little thing. We take 500 years, 5,000 years for granted. They are thrilled if they find something 200 years old. So I think definitely we can document more. Maybe we are an oral society.
If it's oral society without oral history.
Yeah.
You're talking of Singapore having had so much oral documentation. Incidentally, oral history is now making rounds around. A lot of people are saying that yes, we should document oral history more. That's a recent talk. I've also not much. But in the later years, I do find, especially the first decade of this millennium, 2000 onwards, I just made a little list of books on Bangalore. Yesterday was the book day, and there was also an event at Maxwell Bhavan or somewhere on books on Bangalore, something. Naresh was there. Anyone here was attended that event? No one. Okay. You went? Maybe I should have a little chat with you after this to find out. Or if you want to tell us, was there any discussion on books on Bangalore yesterday by any chance?
No, Naresh presented on, he spoke about history, more from the early times.
Okay, that
with some maps and
okay. But was there any reference to publications on city or books on Bangalore? For example, in one of the reason why, another reason why I immediately agreed to come here for this discussion is because yours is a book on Bangalore. So, was there anything of that?
no, nothing on books really. No.
I just want to read this out also for the benefit of all of you, and if any of you are keen, I can pass these 2 pages by email to you people. I have whatever collection we have in my personal collection and also INTACH and all that I have written down in these 2 pages. And also there are a couple of books which I am going to ask Murthy if he can help us in getting these books. Actually the list is a longer list. But this is very curious, when I put this together, I hope you'll bear with this little interruption between your book discussion between the public text. 1997, Maya, Story of a City, Bangalore, okay. Then starts. 2003, Annaswamy, Bangalore to Bangalore. 2003, Peter Kolako, Bangalore, Century of Tales from City and Cantonment. 2005, Janaki Nair, Promise of the Metropolis. 2005, Preeti David is actually, Bangalore and Karnataka is more of a little touristic market, that kind of book. Not really a scholarly book, but anyway, it's a publication on book. 2006, Dilip and Anuradha, Deccan Traversers, 2006. There's a small little guide called the Garden City Guide by one Rahman Azhar. Again, I won't rate it among the scholarly books, but if someone is keen to collect books on Bangalore, I assume this could be a part of a collection. 2006 again, Chandrasekhar, Pinjing from Bangalore. 2006, Ishwar Sudarshan, Bangalore, Expat Story. 2007, Jayant and Sudhir, Beantown, Boomtown. 2008, Sandhya, Best of Bangalore. Okay, that's again a little marketing kind of book. 2008, Aditi, Multiple City, Writings on Bangalore. 2009, Tippaya, Vanishing Lakes. And in between, sorry, I missed these 2. 2001, Smriti Srinivas book, Landscapes of Memory, or whatever the book title is. 2004, James Heitzman, Network City. So, 2010 was Narendra Pani and others, that Bangalore book, which I just discussed a while ago on your table. There are a couple of others which I don't have a copy with me, unfortunately. There's a little book by Kevin Atkin, 2009. It talks of in India's garden city, disappearing green belt, green to gone, published by University of Delaware, how do you pronounce it? 2010, John Stalmeyer, Building Bangalore, Architecture and Urban Transformation in India's Silicon City by Routledge. So, we noticed that in those 10 years, and then this advantage of putting a chronological list, suddenly this graph which was going up like that on Bangalore starts to come down, and then your book appears. Of course, in between we had Citizens Matter, Urvani Media. They wrote this book called Get to Know Bangalore Better. It's like a little more than tourist guide, but it's a little annotated book, a lot of information there as well. And there was this photographic book by Mahesh Bhatt, Bangalore, a city in transition. There was one or two small ones. Okay, 2011 there's a book on Bangalore City Planning Development Governance by Kodandapani. So, your book actually comes at a time when suddenly we notice book as a base read, and I'm pretty sure that you possibly have more information than what is in this book, I assume. Would you be able to have another add-on book to this, or maybe a smaller book without this information, but something more on the urban issues of Bangalore? For example, Bangalore, you mentioned communities. Bangalore in many areas has these small erstwhile villages of Bangalore. There was a community of Bangaloreans lived earlier.
Yeah.
For that matter, even Koramangala, many of us may or may not be knowing about the edge of Koramangala is a Koramangala village there. And all the Madiwala and all, everyone crosses virtually every day. Or, Kaikondrana Halli, it's so difficult to read out. Today is all being inhabited by the software people. So all these Hallis and Urus and Petes of Bangalore.
Right.
So do you think you will be able to bring in this kind of a wealth of information applied to Bangalore and come with another analytical book of sorts?
Another completely different book or add on to this?
Extension of this maybe.
Extension of this.
Apply this information and
I
try
don't
to
see
analyze.
why it should not be possible
It's
at
not
all.
possible,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't see so. Give me more opportunity to do more research. Yeah, I could
Human
use the IIHS a lot more.
Even then.
Pardon?
Sorry?
So we'll have another event then.
Another event. Who wrote it? Eliot. Okay. Teacher?
And then, Monkey Talks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Monkey
is
Talk.
Elizabeth
Okay.
Staley's, yeah.
Bungalows of Bangalore.
Yeah, Bungalows of Bangalore also.
Bungalows of
Lots
Bangalore.
And,
Incidentally, most of these books you have already referred to. That's what I noticed in this. So,
I have many of them
yes,
actually.
you have a personal copy of many
Yeah.
of them with you. It's interesting. Suppose if one wants to look at, now we have been discussing about this book on Bangalore for a while now. Supposing if one wants to look not only on book on Bangalore but on Bangalore. So, what kind of a book ideally can happen on Bangalore, just in case if you can start a little discussion from that. Would you like to say your name, sir? At least.
My name is Vikrant.
Yes.
Just been following this discussion. As a Bangalorean, I've been born and brought up in Bangalore. So there's always this question: whom does Bangalore belong to? There's a huge influx of people from other parts of India. So there's this huge question: does Bangalore really have its own identity? It's more of a cosmopolitan city, or it's more of a city of mixed cultures. And so, does Bangalore really have its own identity, or who does Bangalore belong to? That's
That's
something which.
very deep question. Whom does
Yeah.
Bangalore belong to? But the next question, Vikrant. So let's see what Maya says.
It's a very difficult question to answer, because if you ask me, if you look at personally, I have made Bangalore my city. So I could say, it belongs to me, right? Because I have adopted it, so it belongs to me. But then if you go deeper, I am not from Bangalore, right? So how do you decide actually? It's a very difficult question. Because as long as there have been people, there have been movements. So I think what you're saying could apply to practically any city now, today, any metropolis today. Who does London belong to? Half of London is Indian, right? Or Asian.
Yes.
So it's a very difficult question.
A good friend of mine, Prem Chandravarkar, often would say, maybe in a very jovial way, when you can't answer a question, the best thing you can do is you can expand a question, or you can answer such a one more question. For example, you can always say, Bangalore belongs to Bangaloreans.
Yeah.
Then we got to ask who are the Bangaloreans. It goes on and on.
The only thing is that whenever I get to travel to, I often travel to Mysore. So I see that there's a lot of character and heritage, which is part of Mysore, which I see lacking in Bangalore. So would this book...
What is lacking in Bangalore?
the kind of character that Mysore has, I don't see it in Bangalore. So
Bangalore's character is a little different from Mysore's. I would say Mysore is more, a little more insular, Bangalore is more cosmopolitan, right? So you could look at it from that point of view also. I'm not justifying because of my love for Bangalore, but it's just that Bangalore has evolved. It has never been, has it really had a character, if you say character within inverted commas, has it really ever had a character of its own? I don't know.
Incidentally, if I can chip in a few of my thoughts on the city, the Bangalore is basically made of Uru, Pete, Halli, Matte Pura. These are the four common names we see here. Uru, Alsur, Nagar, all these names, Nagar, all this. So Bangalore is actually, it has a character, but they are more precinct based, neighborhood based, area based. There is no one single character as such. It has a character, but incidentally, a lot of cities today are going through this kind of transformation.
Yeah, correct.
When you said you travel, so when you travel around to different cities, we notice that one part of city would look little different from another part of city. So it is there. But there are certain kind of images of Bangalore. Long time ago, I wrote this article I was telling you also just a while ago. So it's possible to identify the image of Bangalore. Could be partly on some academic lines though, but it is possible to decipher some characteristics in Bangalore, yes. Even Shomitra, sorry.
So would this book be a helpful read for the quintessential Bangalorean, or someone who's born and brought up in Bangalore, or for someone who's come to Bangalore or who's migrated to Bangalore over a period of time, or would it be for both?
That's a good question. I have my answer. Let us see what Maya has to say about it.
I think it could be for both, it could be for someone, because it's a little more again than what a tourist wants. It's much more than what a tourist wants, frankly. The books on Singapore and Jakarta were a little more, but this I feel I've gone into a little bit more of what makes Bangalore what it is. And I think even a person who has been born and brought up in Bangalore would, I hope, get something from this.
Yeah. See, the way I would put it, one is, of course, it has excellent photographs. You already mentioned that a while ago, but it doesn't have too many maps, which I felt, okay, maybe I'm an architect, urban designer, so it could be from my selfish interest.
I think that's
I thought there should have been a few maps in this. Pardon?
It's a good point, I think.
Okay,
point,
yeah. At least a few maps. And the book Deccan Traverses, we know that there's some excellent maps in that. And it also creates a curiosity among the people to, not to study the map, but to read the book.
Yeah.
So maps also help in that way, and those who want to study anyway can study.
Yeah.
Now I would put this book, also taking a clue from what Shrikant said. So it is not a typical coffee table book. You know what I mean by, I hope, because the word coffee table is also very value loaded. For example, if you call upon the author of a book which I may think as a coffee table, and if I use the word coffee table, he or she may refuse, saying, no, Sathya, it is not. So coffee table book is a contested word today, but anyway, this is not a coffee table book, that's for sure. It is not a tourist guide either, definitely not, and nor is it an urban analysis or urban studies kind of a book. That's where it's a very general book. The strength of a very general book is anyone can own it, read it. It gives a very, very interesting introduction to Bangalore. So there could be a little, the Kote, Pete part is a little missing, or a few other things could be. But then, yesterday I had a chat with Maya. I was telling her that I seem to be falling into a trap when you look at a book of this kind. I didn't want to say it to you publicly, but now that I told you, which was actually not even for her, it was my own introspective note. After making a couple of notes, I suddenly felt, am I reading this book only look at what is missing in this and not to appreciate what is good about it? So I said I should not fall into a trap where I am only finding out what is missing in the book, but I should also make a note what is good about the book. But anyway, back to this. So even though one is listing a few little missing things, I would rather say it has a lot of things in it, very excellent, and a very, very good general book on Bangalore. There is a book by Fazlul Rahman, of course also not, Hassan's book is not available also. I think we have some, no more copies left now. Photocopies of the book by Hassan. So that was one of the first books, 1970. So but it's a little heavy read. Or even a Deccan Traverses or any of those books are a little heavy read. Then it's not really for everyone. This is a book for everyone. And if someone wants to study Bangalore, this also can be a first read, no doubt about it. Now, one other thing I liked about this book is the photographics. Now I can see Mansoor sitting there and he's taking a very active role in, what is the group Mansoor you are in with that? Yeah, would you like to say something about Bygone Bangalore, because there's another area I want you to connect.
I have a sore throat, so my voice may not be so hot.
I will, one of us, Arvind, or one of us will.
Yeah, it's called as Bygone Bangalore. It's basically a Facebook page where and everyone contributes their old thoughts as photographs of Bangalore. So right now we have around 8,000 members as such, and we have members from throughout the world who daily contribute some photo or memory of Bangalore. And a couple of months back, like 3-4 months, we even held our exhibition in Bangalore Rangoli Art Center. And this is a small request to people over here. Please join our Bygone Bangalore page on Facebook, and you can also contribute your photographs as well as join in the fun of sharing memories of Bangalore.
See, this is one area where people are contributing to history.
Yeah.
Like the Singapore you mentioned about the oral history part.
Right.
So this is not exactly oral, it's a visual history of Bangalore, but I'm pretty sure this can be another source. If someone wants to do research on Bangalore, that could be another source as well. So the kind of interest on the city seems to be growing now.
It did.
Even the last 4 years,
Right.
at least as per my, I'm not hugely knowledgeable about books on Bangalore, but whatever little exposure I have, I noticed the last 4 years number of books on Bangalore is reduced. But things like this, Facebook page, and also a lot more information is being collated nowadays.
Yeah.
On
Actually, I attended that. I saw that exhibition. It was excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone wants to, yes, please. Pradeep, what is the time? By what time we have to? What time the institute closes? 6.
Okay.
Well, I leave it to the audience.
Hi, I'm Sahil. I work here at IIHS. My question is probably not the right question in this place, but my question is basically that when the whole idea of writing about a city, this whole conception that one city has its one story, or and also the fact that when you say Bangalore, and then trying to establish, say, identity or memory or experience, and trying to capture that, how individual is that experience and how generalized can it be? I mean, partly what I'm trying to say, one thing, at one level I'm asking, that's at the, at the level of the book itself, that when you're thinking or conceptualizing a book about a city, how do you define what goes in and what does not? And that relates to the missing question partly, because there may be something that goes missing because one doesn't really encounter it in the, say, research, say, just generally trying to understand what goes in the book. But partly also the fact that you can never capture everything. I mean, there's a philosophical, and that's at the higher level that I'm asking, that, how do you really, but how do you draw that city? I mean, in the book.
Before I just want to add one thing. See, this whole idea of Pan-American, Pan-Indian, Pan whatever, writing about the wholeness has always been questioned very heavily. But then we also notice this human urge to write about everything. For example, someone would write on the world, and we have books on the world, and we really wonder how can someone write on the world. But there are, and I'm pretty sure there are more omissions than there are inclusions. So keeping that theory apart, yes, there were reaction, please.
You asked how individual it is. Actually, I think in a book like this, which is a general book, it's not an academic book, it's not from any specialized point of view, it is a very individual book. The choices I made to write about, for example, the British period, concentrating on the British period more, was very individual. The choice that I made in writing about the communities was individual because it grew out of a curiosity in me as to what is it that makes Bangalore special for me. So from that point of view, it is very individual. And I think most creative writing is individual. So that's why it's not really, the first few parts are historical. I mean, that's from a historian's point of view. I have not given my, but even there, I think a little bit of my analysis of Tipu and Haider was a very personal thing. So I would say, as Sathya keeps saying, it's a generalized book. I think it's general book. So it is very individual. But if you are writing about it from a research point of view, from a historian point of view, like Dr. Suryanath Kamath, who's, the foremost historian here, then I think it would be more, how shall I put it, more unbiased or unprejudiced, not so individual. Does that answer your question a little bit or no?
Incidentally, one of the first quotes in the book is a very meaningful quote.
And I think it is very...
The task of the historian... Sorry, you want to say something?
No, as you said, it's very difficult to put everything in. I mean, when Sathya points out, yes, you should have put more maps, yeah, I should have done that. When he says something else, yes, I should have done that. But then there are parameters. How much can I go? Then the book will become a huge big tome, which is not what I wanted, really. I haven't finished. I agree. That's a very good question, a very good statement.
You know what? Indirectly, when I asked her, with all the additional information which is still lying with you, could there be a next, urban book? There was something like that. I didn't say it as directly as you said.
No, you're absolutely right. Unless one is like Churchill and you write about 12 volumes and you put everything, however many volumes he wrote.
Maya, I think this quote is worth reading it out here. I know you are not Ramchandra Guha or someone. The task of the historian is to explain the past. The task of the historian is to explain the past, neither to justify nor to condemn it. So if you go by that dictum, which was stated by A.G.P. Taylor in his book, Politicians, Socialism and Historians, I would rather say that, and it's one of the first quotes in the book, your book stays true to that statement here.
Yeah.
So neither to justify nor to condemn, but just to state. And that's why one appreciates the fact that you've gone around research, collected the data and you have put it together in this. And I tell you, it's a very nice, simple narrative, very easy to read. So it's not very heavy on words and language and sentence structuring. So I think it'll really do well in the market. If it's well marketed, of course. End of the day, marketing is important, but
well, one of the reasons I also wrote the book was when I came here, I feel that the history of Bangalore is not much talked about in schools, for example. I don't know if there is a particular subject as history of Bangalore in schools. I have no idea. So Naomi did tell me, why don't you write a short version just for the schools? And it didn't happen, but I wish somebody would do it. I think it would be great because the average Bangalore child does not really know what has gone into the city. Now, of course, there are more walks and things like that, so people are a little more aware of it. But I would like to see that.
Yeah, there are walks, but there is no single small book.
Sorry?
Yeah, I can relate to that because we were never told anything about Bangalore when we were studying in school. There was no such thing about Bangalore.
Yeah.
Possibly got to study a lot more about other parts of
the
India.
world, yeah, right.
But not about Bangalore as such.
Yeah. So how
it was conveniently taken for granted that
right.
It's...
So how can you expect a child to be proud of Bangalore? Isn't it? Unless he knows something about the history. The other thing I also thought of was Chennai has a very nice little booklet which is brought out once a month called Madras Musings. I don't know if any of you have seen that. Muttaya writes about, it's about 5 pages. You've seen that.
I've seen the book.
I wish somebody would do something like that.
Small little booklet.
That again brings me to the thing, because even in Mysore, there's a small tabloid which comes out. I think it's been on ever since I knew that, what it's called Star of Mysore. It's a very famous tabloid.
Yes.
There's no such thing in Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every household in Mysore,
Gets that.
however old or new or whatever, has this copy. So it's a daily thing. So there's no such thing about Bangalore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyone wants to put in? Time is nearly up, but Pradeep said, yeah, but yes.
Yeah, I think
Sumitra wants to say something about the urban. Yes, please. Yes. You also want to say from urban Bangalore something you want to add?
Yeah, just one
Just
question.
say your name, please. Just
Pankaj Modi. I'm a conservation architect. And this is more about most of our Indian historic cities have a very strong community base, which is a strong layer, and that is seen visible. In Bangalore also, it's been there, from 1537, diverse communities have come to Bangalore, and even 115 years back when Baswantgudi and Malleshwaram were planned, it was largely community-based.
Right.
Do we see this as a very strong layer even today embedded in Bangalore, which is giving a certain character, probably which is not seen, invisible in a sense, or it's really diversified?
Your
cosmopolitan.
query also connects, I think, what you are talking about, the character of the city, identity, etc. I assume.
Yeah, as you say, it was, my opinion is, as you say, it was started community-based, but has it remained that way? I don't think so, right? It hasn't remained that way. So then it's kind of diversified. We talk.
There's no strong character which is probably embedded in the city, which is community.
Which is community-based. Yeah, Bangalore doesn't have that. I think Mysore would have that, right?
Yeah, Mysore has,
Mysore
Bangalore
would have
doesn't have any such.
Yeah. Now, whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, I just like to think of it as being different. Mysore is different, Bangalore is different, Kodagu is different, and maybe that's the charm of the capital city also.
Pankaj, my general gut feeling, before you come to suggest, Ullas has some point of say. Ullas Rane wants to ask something, Mike. Now, my gut feeling is this: if someone has been staying in an area, we lived in Hanmant Nagar, Srinagar area quite some time ago, and then of course we moved out, and there are some of my relatives there who live there, and recently he was saying that community structure is changing very rapidly. Some other community people are coming, they're buying the properties become hugely costly, so the locals are selling, others are coming in, all the typical things happening around. But if someone who walks into Srinagar area today with no idea of Srinagar's background, what was happening there, let's say 15 years ago, they may not really feel so. So I think it's only when someone is able to compare, it may come. This is my general feeling, I'm not trying to. But I would also agree with you that the community, the clarity of the community structure possibly is diluting.
Dilute. I mean, even if you take us individuals, I don't know how many of us are really one or the other. If you take, I am a Malayali, born and brought up in Tamil Nadu.
Studied in Bangalore.
Studied in Bangalore, speak Hindi fluently. So, what am I? If you ask me, I don't know. So now it's easy for me to say I'm a Bangalorean. But really, what am I? I don't know. I am who I am.
Incidentally, Pankaj is asking this question maybe from some other perspective. He was involved in a study of some of the Bangalore precincts, all that. So, you walked around in a lot of these precincts, and he has quite a knowledge on Bangalore's neighborhoods around. It's of your query. Yes, please. Your name, sir?
Yeah, Ullas Rane. I'm an architect. I came to Bangalore in 1998 from Mumbai. And I wanted to know about Bangalore, and I read your first book that time. I still have that book with me. It gave me a glimpse of general information about Bangalore. But still I didn't understand Bangalore. I wanted to understand it thoroughly, quickly. So what I started doing was I just started traveling all over Bangalore. On my own, sometimes in bus, sometimes in my car, sometimes and visiting various petes and haldis and all these things. So a friend of mine who is also an architect and been living in Bangalore for almost 20-30 years was surprised that in 1 year I knew so much about Bangalore that he didn't know in 20 years. So I think the moving around the places and understanding it through people who are residents gives us a knowledge of the city or any place for that matter. What I have a question is that your title, Bangalore Roots and Beyond. So I have not read the book, I'm very sorry about that, but I came here with a curiosity to know that what are those roots included in the book and what is that beyond that is included in the book. And I also want to say something that some of these cities have been very well written. I'm not talking about documentation of a city, I'm talking about writing story about the city, narratives of the city. And sometimes it is not a book on a city. Like Mumbai has been written, documented well, written well. But there is a book, say someone like Salman Rushdie wrote Midnight Children. But half of Midnight Children is Mumbai.
It's Bombay. It's Mumbai.
So are there such books about Bangalore without documentation of Bangalore but having stories woven around Bangalore?
Recently, in Kannada, there are
Kannada. There is also by, Lavanya Shankaran has written a book, a fiction, which is based on Bangalore, the IT, stories about IT people. And I think recently they have been fictionalized.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly, I can only remember Lavanya's book.
Pinging from Bangalore by Chandrasekhar is a blog novel, as they say. The Bangalore, the expat story, it refers to a few things there. Even that Bangalore is actually an anthology of writings.
I think Ishwar Sundareshan's book.
Ishwar Sundareshan's book, the expat story, Bangalore expat story.
Yeah.
So there also, the Chandramouli has written something on Bangalore. There is, in Kannada, there is a very interesting book on, we didn't actually look at the Kannada speaking world here for a while, and it's unfair, but it is not part of today's agenda, we felt. There is his book on Bangalore Itihasa by Sundar Rao, Jagadish Chandra's father, Bana Sundar Rao. So, B.N. Sundar, he has written on Bangalore. And there is this whole Bangalore Darshana, large 2-volume publication by Udayabanu Kalasanga, where there's lots and lots of information Bangalore. Suresh Moona has been researching, he's one of the kind of walking encyclopedia of a Bangalore which is not, which is not seen in the published world. He doesn't write like Deccan Traversers, or he doesn't write like Anna Swami or someone, but he goes around about.
But maybe your story is about Bangalore, woven around Bangalore. You have been talking about Singapore. It's interesting that I like to read detective books. And when I read about the detective story, particularly written on a detective from Singapore, it creates interest in me because that detective story tells many things about the city itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm expecting something like that. Is it there?
No. Anita Nair's book, yes, right. Right.
Bangalore?
Yeah. It is based in Bangalore, yeah.
Which one? Arvind, tell me later on.
Yeah,
please
you're right.
Let me know later on.
Yeah.
See, we were discussing about the need to write, more people write. Maybe you can use his comment to encourage people to write as well. And also,
he himself can write now.
He has already written one book and
he has written a book?
I have told him that I'll be one of your buyers for when his book is published.
Yeah, okay.
Not that, so anyway.
Yeah. No, My Beyond does not include that. My
also
Beyond.
The point is about beyond. He's also referring to the idea of beyond.
Yeah.
I want to react.
Yeah.
Suresh Moona. Yeah. That's Janashri channel.
Yeah, I know that. No, My Beyond does not include that. My Beyond just talks about what we can expect Bangalore to be from a superficial point of view, actually, not what you are talking about. But it is a good idea. There's not that much that has been written using Bangalore as a base for stories, which is what you're talking about. I don't think there's been as much written here as there has been about Bombay or even Delhi. Calcutta, I don't know. Madras also, there's not that much.
I came across one book, like a story on Bangalore, and with foreword by Ananthamurthy.
This way, that Pinging from Bangalore, a blog novel. It has Ananthamurthy's introduction. Now, see now, just 1 second to continue what you said. Yes.
When I said from Mumbai I came to Bangalore, and Bangalore has been always known as Garden City.
Yeah.
And I think that is the character of Bangalore. Still, even today, growing Bangalore, expanding Bangalore, but if you look at the diversity biodiversity that you have, the natural biodiversity that you have in Bangalore, particularly in various large campuses, I think garden city or a green city is the character of Bangalore.
Yeah,
Actually, there is a children's book which is written about Bangalore by Monideepa Banerjee or somebody like that. It's a very nice children's book set in Bangalore.
What's the name of the author?
I can't remember it. I'll let you know. I know her, so I'll find out and let you know.
Incidentally, also to what you mentioned, this book doesn't really say much about the recent Bangalore, which you already shared with you. And also, I noticed when I was reading the book, Maya has only a kind of a cursory chapter at the end. And it doesn't even say much of what happened in the last 10-15 years in Bangalore. For that matter, one of the last reference to, it could be the population of Bangalore or reference to any year. 2005 gets mentioned somewhere, then 2008 gets mentioned somewhere, that's it. So then I asked her, and she said there's no mandate of the book. But the book had to end somewhere in a meaningful way. So when the publishers and all came on board, they said, we need to have a end for the book in a way suggesting today. So even though it's published in 2014, in my opinion, the book actually doesn't have much of last 10 years in this book.
Yeah.
Forget the beyond. Even the immediate back is also not in this book. But it's not the mandate of the book. But I assume someone else will take the clue from someday. Yes. Pradeep, can we take some more discussions? Sir, your name? Roundley.
You hear me? Right. I don't know if it's the British legacy that we have, or is it the garden city as it's called, and the IT that has come up now, or there are a lot of things. And if I ask the same question, what is Bangalore? And if someone who's come from outside and asks me, like, what is Bangalore? How would you define it? What is Bangalore to you?
Difficult question.
Incidentally, thanks anyway. This could be more or less the end of the discussion unless someone else has a very pressing, urgent things to ask. Even I was planning to ask you something very similar. You only have worded it slightly different from my wording. Yes.
It's a very difficult question to answer, Bangalore. As he says, I would say it is a garden city. It is a city that is... Are you asking me to describe Bangalore, or are you... What exactly do you mean by define Bangalore? How would you define Bombay? What is the pulse in Bangalore?
What's your professional background, Arun? What's your professional background? Journalist, okay. One second, I'll just take a little diversion 1 minute. There is a book called Genius Loci, which is written by Norberg Schulz. Yeah, Norberg Schulz. And that book became pretty famous in our urban study circle because he talks of genius loci as, well, how do you define the word genius loci? Genius loci is the essence of a city. I'm not very good in describing the word myself now, but I've read the book. It's a fabulous book. It made huge impact on me. And he talks about how to identify the essence of a place. So I think what you're asking is something like that, how to identify the essence of a place.
Would you accept it's a happening city? No, not at all. It means things happen here. There is a buzz about Bangalore. It's not a stagnant, static place. Okay, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not stagnant, it's not static. There is a vivacity about it. Not as much as Bombay maybe, not as much as Mumbai, but definitely more than many other places that I can think about. It's not a city that is finished. There are some cities that are finished. Okay, what is the word for that? There's a word, right, for Pakistan. They say something about it. It's there's hope for the city. Let me put it that way. Would you accept that? I'm trying to answer your question. see what it is for me. For different individuals, it's probably different. Anybody else has any ideas, Rahana?
Yeah.
Rehan? Yeah. Sorry?
Very what?
I found it quite arthritic for that matter. I found there was no spirit, there wasn't much of spirit, but that was also because I was very new to the city. I had, I didn't know anything about it at that point.
Okay.
And I was feeling extremely alienated.
Alienated.
Yeah, and I just moved from Chennai, which could be described in much the same words that you had just used for Bangalore. Right? So
Okay.
I don't even know why you would even want to answer a question like define Bangalore. It's a profoundly almost stilted question. Define a city. It's really
a
why.
difficult question.
Bangalore has a big elephant. 6 blind men looking at the elephant.
It's a difficult question to answer. Because again, it's a very individual thing, isn't it? I mean, you have two opposing points of view. So it's,
Recently, I was traveling. I was traveling back to Bangalore from some other town, and I happened to talk to some people in the train. So they were coming here for some Air Force examination or something, and they said, like, "What do we get to see in Bangalore? Is there any tourist spot? Is there any must-visit place in Bangalore?" And I just did not have an answer. So I just could not answer that question. They said, like, okay, if you go to Chennai, there are like XYZ places, or if you go to Mysore, there's the palace, then you have the zoo, then you have the Chamundi Hills, and then if you go to Pune, you have these. And they said, like, what's in Bangalore? Is there any monument or is there any tourist place? So I did not have an answer, but I just said, like, the whole of Bangalore itself is a tourist place. So this question I don't think has a defined answer as such. Even
You're
for
very right.
Bangalorean, I don't.
Bangalore is not a monument-centric city.
It's not,
Bangalore is
yeah.
not. It's actually, it all comes in the urban analysis which some of us are involved with, and we have been generally stated, yes, Bangalore is not really one of those kind of specific cities. It's a very general city.
yeah.
And the reason why Bangalore ticks today is because of its generality than the specificity. And if someone asks why isn't Mysore picking up in the same rate as Bangalore, forget the ills of economics. I'm not supporting economics by saying this, because economics can kill a city. Now, Mysore has not grown economically as much as it was touted, as it was supposed to be way back in the 90s. Everyone said, oh, Mysore will grow, Mysore will grow. It didn't. It was anyway good, it didn't grow. Now, see, Mysore is very, one can label a city of Mysore as a monument-centric city, as a culture-centric city, Kannada culture-centric city. Bangalore is not. That's why everyone fits into Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah.
If somebody asked them about Bangalore, because I was new to Bangalore and I had gone to them, and they said, there is nothing in Bangalore, but there are many things around Bangalore.
Around Bangalore, right.
So you use it as a transit place.
Absolutely.
Go to Bandipur,
Yeah.
go to Mysore, go to
Somnathpur,
go to
yeah.
Hampi. So
yeah.
it is a transit place. This is what Karnataka Tourism
I
Development
wish
Corporation
they
said.
had given a better
I
answer.
say they had better idea about Bangalore.
See, though we do say from an urban study point of view, we say Bangalore is not monument-centric or Bangalore is not. But Bangalore has many things in it.
Yeah.
So the answer what they gave is not a very good answer.
I think
Well, maybe one of the last queries, otherwise. I
what-
believe there is an auto shut-off button for all these lights. It will go off in. Sorry. 1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
Your
I think
name?
one of the things which,
Your name, sir?
Kabir. So one of the things which I was feeling is Bangalore is not yet able to sell itself in the tourism industry, which Ahmedabad did. It was also a generic city, and suddenly they realized that there is an old part. Let's sell and let's market it, and then you have World Heritage Site, which Bangalore amazingly has in the older part of the city, which is not every site of it is so amazing. But the way it has to be done in the marketing, the strategy of it is yet to be evolved in the minds of the people, because there is an underestimation of what do you see in the old city. So the idea is that you will see some huge building in front of you, and Bangalore itself has so many trees, and the trees which are like the ancient trees we have. But it's just that the idea of having a monument-centric city or a particular way of looking at tourism, whether it is religious or it has not yet yielded those results which are yet to be done.
Right. Yeah,
The-
I think that's a very
Yeah, it's a point taken.
Yeah,
There are a lot
point
of, unfortunately, the other day I had a walk in Gavipur, and it's pity to watch the 1550 or 1560s, one of the Kempegowda Gopuras in Gavipura, in the condition it is, the Begur inscription, the inscription which states Begur 1985 or whatever, lying in Begur, open for sun and rain. And if that inscription would have been London, they would have created a museum for that one inscription, charge 25 pounds per head. Here it doesn't. See, what has happened in the case of Bangalore is that it has moved from, there was a time when there was a word called metropolitan, and incidentally Prakasa Rao's and Tiwari's one of the early book on Bangalore, structure of a metropolitan city, case study Bangalore, they use the word metropolitan city. From metropolitan has become now cosmopolitan city.
Yeah.
And now from cosmopolitan, now it has become just a speculation city. Bangalore is one of the cities where the speculative trends are hugely, the curve is so large. If you want to grow money, Bangalore is a city to grow money. Just put in money and the money comes back. And if land value starts to dominate a city, nothing will be left in the city. Nothing. And that one of the reason is because the speculation has now overtaken everything else. Even the cosmopolitan is also overtaken by speculation today. Any other general comments? Otherwise, I have just one last word to share with you. And then
yeah, sure.
You already raised the question which I want to raise. And so, you asked about what is Bangalore. My point was your general impression of Bangalore as a city, and I will not go back into that. But I want to say something in a little comical way to what I think two of you said. I have also traveled in many cities, and particularly Bangalore, I find people asking this question. For example, if you go to any birthday party, any gathering, any public lecture like this, and after lecture, if people are hanging around for a cup of tea, coffee, drinks, whatever it is, one of the commonly heard questions is, where are you from?
Yeah.
We are standing in Bangalore, we are living in Bangalore, and we ask another Bangalorean, where are you from? This whole question of asking, where are you from, is a very strange question. Where are you from? We both are in the same city.
We are from Bangalore, yeah.
It in a way summarizes, and I mentioned this to one or two sociologist friends of mine. I said, in Bangalore I hear this a lot more than anywhere else, where are you from, as a question. It is one of the standard way to know each other, where are you from. So, that summed up to me, at least the way Bangalore is changing a lot in the recent time. And we don't know really what will be the Bangalore of tomorrow, but, and I know definitely you are not really looking at this book as a hint or as a suggestion of the Bangalore beyond. So this word beyond may not be the best of the titles here. I somehow felt, sorry to be fair to you, but somehow I felt the roots and beyond didn't go very well with this, the structure of the book, but that apart.
Yeah.
We all want to attract titles, and I'm sure the publisher, editor, everyone would have been involved in this.
Yeah. Actually, they did not. The original book, the old book was called Bangalore, the Story of a City. But we couldn't keep that title for various technical reasons. So that is how this came up. Roots and beyond.
Now you get your answer.
Yeah.
What is the root? What is beyond?
Yeah.
But if you're not looking at the root too seriously, not looking at the beyond too much, by this, it's worth. Yes, sir.
I came to Bangalore to join my father, who started a bookshop on Museum Road. And amongst all the places, I loved Common Park. And I used to see quite often Victoria statue near the police station. And invariably, I would spend a lot of time on MD Road on those seats, where it used to be opposite to my father's shop. I used to enjoy the sight of Queen Victoria's statue. Today, there is a discussion that they wish to demolish that or remove it. And they don't want to keep the notions of the British monarchy in our city. There is one sort of civil war going on. And the corporation wants to improve the area. They want to beautify it with some sort of a spot, greenery, around the statue. I prefer the latter part. The corporation is really doing a great service. But I was very sick when I heard one of the patriots of the Bangalore city saying that we shouldn't have any memories of the British Varanashi.
Very controversial opinions in the public sphere.
Right.
Public text. This is, I don't know how many in the series you are organizing, Pradeep, but nice of you people to organize. And the other day, yesterday, we were discussing it with someone. Recently, we had our INTACH annual World Heritage Talk. And despite informing hundreds and hundreds of people, we have a small number of people sitting there. And I am coming with the new theory of urban studies. The more the people in the city, the lesser the attendance in any talk. So there is some kind of a proportion, but it's good to see that we have had a pretty good crowd on a comparative Bangalore base. And it was. Pardon? Should I say the whole story? I was actually chatting with Arvind. If you give me another minute, I'll just say this. I was saying, see, there was a time when everyone attended music concerts live. Then the time came when people not able to attend the music concerts. And the media came. In those days, let me use about TV or radio to begin, but I'm using about TV. So instead of the musician singing to audience, the musician would sing to a camera. And the camera would reach it to the so-called music audience. So likewise, now slowly a time will come. So if there is a discussion on Bangalore, maybe in 10 years down the line, if there's going to be another discussion, thanks to Pradeep, but in you and me, we both will be sitting in front of a camera in IIHS that will completely telecast, and that will be put up on YouTube saying Public Text Series 44. Please watch it on YouTube. Yes. Pardon?
Now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It's going live, yeah.
Oh dear.
Well, I hope we have maintained the public behavior as much as possible for public text. Well, thank you all for this. One thing I found, that maybe the group was smaller, but it's very lively audience, and the kind of discussion we had. Instantly, I myself have made 2 pages of notes from the discussion with you and the audience. It has been very, very good from that point of view.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interest.